Hi, my dear Astro family. Today it's time to speak about the Cancer full moon. I hope you had a fantastic start to the beginning of 2023 and you are ready to embrace some greatness this year. Obviously, this year is pretty important, in my opinion, because we have got so many new cycles starting. We have got planetary sign changes. And usually, when there are so many planetary sign changes, brings a huge turn of events, and we need to be ready for it. So this is going to be the first full moon of the year, which I think it's going to be highlighting the start of that. And I'm going to explain to you why. But before we do that, I would like to make two announcements. One of them is that I'm going to be starting a course on planets, the seven visible planets in each sign. So this is for astrologers who want to deepen their knowledge about the meaning of planets in each signs, but also for beginners who just wants to gain some knowledge. Each class will be about 3 hours long, and I think we will be able to cover approximately about one planet, maybe in about 7 or 8 signs, within about 3 hours. I'm gonna try to give you as deep as possible from a biological, philosophical, physiological, and psychological point of view. So it's going to be packed with loads of information. And also, I've got another course which is coming up in February, and that's going to be all about the houses. What we will there is that we're going to be explore the meaning of the houses from a traditional and modern point of view as well. And we're going to be looking at how these houses are connected to each other so that you have got a deeper understanding, when we talk about the water houses, when we talk about the earth houses, how does the ninth house connect to the 10th house, and so forth. So this is also for beginners as well as advanced students. So, but enough of the announcements. Let's get started with the Cancer full moon. So this Cancer full moon is going to be taking place on the 6th of January on 16 degree of Cancer. Now, this is a very interesting full moon, in my opinion. It is forming a T-square with Pallas Athene, Mercury, and Chiron. It's going to be a cradle chart aspect pattern. So I'm going to talk about that. But also very interestingly enough, we've got two asteroids involved. One of them is Russia. The other one is Vienna, the capital city of Austria. So we will be exploring the meaning of this a little bit more in depth. So stay tuned till the very end. So this full moon, as I said, is going to be taking place on 6th of January and on 16 degree of Cancer. Now, what is a full moon? A full moon is always about culmination of an event, which eventually needs to be released. But the full moon is bright, right? So it's spotlighting something in our life. So you might want to be looking at where the Cancer and the Capricorn cusps are in your chart, because those are going to be emphasized for you in the next few months for sure. Now, this is on 16 degree of Cancer, which is actually Capricorn what? So I find it very interesting that you have got the Cancer and the Capricorn axis. On one hand, it does talk about parenting. Secondly, it could talk about balance between your career and your home life, but also your emotional and your physical security, and then how they are kind of clashing and how we need to be integrating those. So the emotional and the practical security. But on a mundane level, this could really talk about land and governments. It could talk about some type of initiations around borders, as well as kind of like a meeting point somewhere, maybe starting some type of conversations or negotiations overall. So, but of course, the Cancer cusp is going to get triggered in your chart the most. So let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, definitely one of the meanings of Cancer is about security. And Cancer feels secure when there are secure points or people in their lives. So, one of the questions it might pop up with this Cancer full moon is that who can I trust? And what is stable in my life and what's not? Because if there is a little bit of a chaos involved, then we need to make an order there. You know, Cancer never wants to be alone. So they always make sure that someone is around so that they can cuddle those, they can help those, they can nurture those. But there is a little bit of a selfish motive behind because they want to receive love in return. Often, obviously, it talks about that more generation are living together. Cancer kind of blackmails you a little bit when you don't eat, for instance. I made this delicious food and all those type of things. There is a people-pleasing side to Cancer. So that's probably an important phrase here because, I want to pussyfoot people around. That could be a topic. Or, how I am a people pleaser. What do I want to do? So it's about how secure I feel about myself, but also how to create security for others too. Cancer is definitely very intuitive. So it's going to talk, or it definitely tells you that this time around, you're going to have to listen a little bit more to your intuition as well. Maybe Cancer represents somehow the body. So it could talk about dissatisfaction with your body, but also how to purify your body as well at the same time. You know, it could talk about how to assimilate to your environment. It could talk about why am I moody? What is infecting or impacting, sorry, not infecting, impacting my mood? What is that element in my environment which is causing me some type of blockages? Also, can some full moon is about avoiding conflicts. But there is a little bit of a conflicting energy going on here because we have got this T square to Chiron as well as Pallas Athene involved here, which is really much talking about the need to stand up for yourself. Maybe there is a need to do a little bit of a decluttering in your closet. Why is that? Because Cancer loves collecting things. They are attached to their memories. Therefore, they don't throw things out. And maybe, this full moon is telling you that I need to be making space to the new one. We're going to have to look at the future a little bit more. Also, if you think about Cancer, which has got kind of like that protective shell around it, like the crab has, right? So it's very much about why do I protect myself? Or who is trying to hurt me? Who do I need to protect myself from? It's kind of like staying at home because the world might be too dangerous. So let's just stay at home, no one can really hurt us here. So overall, the spiritual dynamics of Cancer is really much about having belongings and security as well. Of course, it talks about motherhood too. So it's kind of like the relationship I have with the mother and the child, but also how I connect with my inner child as well. So something needs to be healed there. Again, the focal point of the T square, what I was talking about, is Chiron, which is a wounded bird in the sign of Aries. It cannot fly. It wants to be adventurous. It wants to go, and then it cannot because the wings are kind of clipped off, or actually broken overall. So, you know, maybe another question which pops up with this Cancer full moon is that do I need to leave the family ties behind or my home environment behind? Do I need to relocate? Do I need to travel somewhere to kind of switch off the batteries? but also how can I leave the past behind? How can I let go of something? I feel like Cancer represents the circle of life, right? So, which means that we grow up, we move on, we might always return to our starting point to kind of revisit bits and bobs, but I don't live in the past. I live my own life. And this is something this Cancer full moon is really bringing for us. Also, at the same time, it's about how much love do I give to others and how many things do I sacrifice in my life? What do I hold on to? Cancer likes cuddling. So obviously, again, that's a protective shell as well because I've got someone around me, maybe someone or something. So what do I protect myself against? You know, one of the problem with Cancer is that it is always has got loads of fear of the new things. Now, this Cancer full moon has got a trine to Uranus, which means that if I look forward to the future, if I break out of my comfort zone, then actually something great can happen to us, something shocking, some type of revelation also. Often Cancer is kind of like, oh, wow, what's going to happen if I'm not going to have a home? So, yes, it's possible that, there is going to be some type of legislation around home and real estate industry, for example, or it's very possible that, people are afraid because they are not able to pay their mortgage. So the home environment and as well as your home country is really there. Also, definitely, I kind of feel like the gender topics are still gonna be, huge in 2023. Obviously, Cancer talks about, for instance, wanting to have a family, and the fear is that they're gonna lose their child. Whether we're talking about abortion or whether we are talking about, miscarriage, or just the fact that the child grows up and then leaves us and then they're not gonna come back and visit us because that's the biggest fear of Cancer, being the fear of being left alone and being emotionally detached from something. Also, Cancer, it's a water sign. It can represent illnesses too. So I still kind of feel like there is kind of like this flu season going on, and we just need to be reminded that, our body is our temple and then we need to feed it the best possible way. So a little bit of a reminder to be careful for that. Um, yeah. Now, if we look at this chart a little bit closer, then you can see that, as I said, we have got this T-square happening with Mercury, Pallas Athene, and Chiron. Now, very interesting that obviously Mercury is right next to the Sun. It has just had this rebirth moment, right? What is the rebirth of Mercury? So basically, Mercury goes retrograde a few times a year and it is making a conjunction to the sun while it's retrograde, as well as when it makes a conjunction to the sun when it's direct also. So the conjunction between the sun and Mercury takes place on the 7th of January, which means that you kind of like receiving information from the gods as well as from the king in a sense what you are meant to be doing with your life or in your life, kind of like a little bit of a whispering going on. So this Cancer full moon definitely invites you to listen for those voices and for that whispering, because you can download so much information if you are at the right place at the right time. I kind of feel like that, obviously, Chiron, which is involved here with this full moon, it's about wanting to have reassurance. It's about why am I surrounded by wounded people all the time? Do I need to release them? Because the full moon is about release, right? How do they affect my mood? But also how to have a holistic approach, how to nurture the body. Because when I put in so much kind of like negativity into my body, all of a sudden we start kind of like feeling some emotional pain for others too, you know. Also, this could talk about some type of shadow work to be done to release, for instance, wounds around the mom or around the dad, basically some parenting wounds. It could talk about feeling so um, empathy to others that I feel their pain as well, or it can indicate that I want to help others, so that they feel better in their own skin. I help others, but actually at the same time, I forget about my own needs. Where does that come from? Because the sun and the moon are in opposition, right? So we have got our emotional or physical needs, and they are completely different. So imagine a scenario where you are at workplace and then everyone needs help and then you are there, but you don't realize that, hold on a minute, I'm meant to be cooking dinner or I'm meant to be having dinner with my kids, or stuff like that. And then I regret that later on. So dealing with other people's emotional security is great, but you're going to have to be a little bit selfish as well. And this could be a reminder for plenty of people with this full moon. Also, it might be talking about that I don't feel that I'm getting looked after by others, or I don't get enough positive feedback from my loved ones. Or it could talk about that, I'm a single parent and I have got all these hardships and I don't know how to cope with it. So there is an element of asking for help as well at the same time. No, because the sun is connecting to Palasatene, which is really much about understanding your ego pattern. So maybe we're going to have to put our ego aside a little bit. Again, Palasatene is about pattern recognition, right? So seeing where do we make the same mistakes all the time? Who do I feel outshined by? Also, what my talents are. Sun and Palasatine really talks about talent management. So you're going to have to figure out what your talents are. Often Palasatine pops up in a chart when there is a problem. So we're going to have to solve the problem. And we have got the skill for it. Often it is about a strong sense of justice. Who kind of makes you feel that you have done wrong? Also, this is about strategic thinking, preparing yourself for the future. Um, I kind of what I like about Palo Sateni when it pops up in a chart is because it always provides wisdom. It's kind of like a counselor type of energy. But this Cancer full moon indicates that you're going to have to get in touch with your feminine side a lot more. It's about not wanting to follow anyone's footsteps. I don't need to get attached to negativity, for example. Let them go, you know, because it will liberate you. You can become the champion and the advocate of your own life. You can promote a little bit of an independence. This is what the Palasatene as well as Uranus represents there for us, right? As I said, it has got a trine to Uranus, so that could be really prominent for us. What we need to understand with a Cancer full moon is that it's here to teach you that, something happens in the outer world, it's going to have a direct reflection in our inner world as well. So taking care of ourselves is always the number one primary goal, and it's vital, especially because this is the beginning of the year, and you might have made some New Year's Eve a resolution, and that needs to be part of it. It also how to calm yourself from any type of situation, whether you trust yourself, whether you believe in yourself, whether you are able to follow the guidance or which way you are going, in the right direction or in the wrong direction. Now, as I also mentioned to you that it's a cradle aspect pattern what we have. So what you see in a cradle chart is that we have got an opposition happening, and then we have got 3 sextiles and two trines. Now, as you can see that the opposition, of course, happens between the sun and the moon, as well as a moon to Mercury as well. And we have got the Uranus trine involved here, and then we have got 2 sextiles also, one to Neptune, and the other one is going to be, of course, Uranus again from the moon. So this is a brilliant cradle chart. So what is the cradle? It's also called as the half hexagon because it kind of looks like the grand hexagon, a grand sextile, just it's halved, really. Now, let's just think about what cradle is. Basically, it would talk about a person who longs to make a life a cradle where they can snuggle up and shut off the rest of the world. So there is a little bit of an escapism going on with the cradle chart. Now, if the cradle, for instance, happens at the top of your birth chart, or if the ascendant or the descendant, is involved too, then it could talk about how much this is actually tipping out, or what type of false securities we create, or in what ways you are trying to escape from the true realities of life by snugly caring for yourself or other people as well. So in what ways are you trying to escape from reality? I also believe that the cradle does talk about loads of talent as well. I call it as the real empath aspect pattern. So definitely soaking up other people's pain, could be one of the talent here, but also the way how you dig your own grave as well, if you like it. I also believe that in the world, there is going to be a lot more talk, definitely about giving birth and pregnancy. And I've been mentioning that for a while. And I think this full moon is kind of like going to be the tip of the iceberg, really. Because what is Cancer, really? We're talking about birth and life. We're talking about pregnancy and death as well at the same time, because there is that saying that you're never going to go back to that place where you came out from, right? So the circle of life that we all gonna give birth, our children will grow up, we're gonna die, they're gonna die again, and then from a karmic point of view, we will meet again anyway. So Cancer is kind of like the entrance to the underworld. And Cancer represents funeral as well. Okay. Also, it's interesting that the Cancer, as in constellation, is placed next to Hydra, which is representing the underworld. So there is that entry there between the physical as well as the spiritual world. So incarnation is a huge topic. So it's good to do some family constellation therapy around this full moon. It could be great to do something to do with inner child workshop, or something, as I said, to let go of some of the family wounds here also. I kind of believe that Cancer does represent alongside with Taurus, of course, the Mother Earth, and it is said that Mother Earth was kind of brought up from the ocean, and the ocean is calm but very destructive at the same time. So it could really talk about that something is tipping out your calmness, which needs to be, kind of fixed. Often this is talking about mother complex. There is a real desire to be in connection to our feminine side. We are always on the lookout of someone to care for and to be taken care of by. So there is that sense of belonging which is going on here. Obviously, Cancer has got that sextile to Taurus, so there is something similar between them too. Okay, so this would be, oh, and then the last thing which I wanted to mention, of course, very important, that we have got the asteroid Russia right on the sun on 16 degree. So definitely, something political around protection of the lands and so forth are gonna be a major topic for us in Russia. And maybe somehow Vienna might be involved as well because Moon has got that conjunction to the other asteroid, which I mentioned at the beginning, called Varingia, which was named after Vienna, which is the capital of Austria. So I'm guessing there is going to be some negotiations or some gathering together type of meeting, maybe in Austria. Uh, Maybe the resources will be discussed here, or but somehow Russia and Vienna might be um involved with this full moon. One last thing is when you look at the mythology of Cancer, which I think we can learn quite a lot from. Basically, we had Krios, which was a giant crab who was the protector of the sea nymphs, and he was immortal. And when Typhon was terrorizing the gods, it went into hiding. Poseidon left Krios in charge of the sea, and she never allowed the nymphs out of her reach. So some of them became a little bit reckless and left the sea, but Krios could not go after them. So he sent someone else called Vamari, but he could not find them. So Krios actually knew that Vamari was lying, so he attacked him, and he finally won the battle, but she injured badly, and he never recovered from her injuries. And Poseidon, on his return, relieved her from her pain, but when she died and she was placed in the sky as the Cancer constellation. So this talks about something being overprotective, but also it reminds us, how brave we are as with Cancer full moon, or how strong we are. So you are reminded that you have got the strength, you've got everything what it takes to change your life. You just need to be willing to do that. And we often say that Cancer is all about being soft and sensitive, but it's a cardinal sign. We should not forget about it. So we are fierce as hell. We just need to also care about it as much as, we would care about others as well. Now, this full moon is, of course, in the middle of the Mars and Mercury retrogrades. Mars retrograde is activated there, of course, because Mercury has got the conjunction to this full moon, and Mercury is the dispositor of Mars retrograde. Now, I find it very interesting that Mars is actually right on Uranus in the US Sibley chart. Right, so I don't necessarily like talking about US because you guys always ask me, oh, why US? Why not other countries? And I always say the reason is because whatever happens goes down in the US will affect the whole world. So this Uranus-Mars kind of combination can bring some rebellious energy in the US, feeling agitated and so forth. And I think you guys can kind of confirm that too, basically, that something fears off often. Anyway, so guys, this is my intake on the upcoming full moon in Cancer. What I really feel like is this is more a psychological full moon where there needs to be a little bit of a preparation for the upcoming year. Thank you, everyone, and see you very soon. Bye bye.